Welcome back, everybody, to We Know Texas Vino. This is Will, your host, and today I'm coming live from, well, not live, we're actually being recording this right now. Sorry, but we're coming from Driftwood Estate Winery, and is it Wimberley, Texas?
This is in Driftwood,
Oh,
Texas.
Driftwood. Yeah.
Hence the winery name.
That's how it got the name.
Well,
but we're just north of Wimberley.
I mean, I came through Wimberley, and I was like, is this in Driftwood or is it in Wimberley?
Yeah, it's Driftwood. Okay. I live in Wimberley, though.
Okay.
We love
Wimberley's
it.
actually a nice little town.
We love it.
I don't think I've ever been through Wimberley. I've been
Very
through a lot of
cute.
towns in Texas, and I don't think I've been through Wimberley.
Yeah.
Actually, there's a area that we're probably in part of is the Wimberley Valley area.
Oh, okay.
But the city, the town, the closest town would be Driftwood.
Oh, okay.
So you're kind of right on both.
Yeah.
Oh, well, good. I mean, that's good that you tell me I'm right, because sometimes I have to be right, you know. So today with us, we have Gary Elliott, who is the owner, and then Jackie VanSant
Downes.
Okay, I just want to make
Yes.
sure that's, same VanSant as in the singer.
No,
Okay.
not related, but he's very cool.
Okay. And she is the winemaker. So thank y'all for being on the show today.
Thank you.
It's been an honor to meet and talk with y'all before I get going here. But before we get started on the show, first off, what are we drinking here?
So what we've poured for you is our most recent vintage, our 2023 rosé blend. And this is fruit from the Texas Hill Country, and it has a little bit from the High Plains too. And we just got double gold from San Francisco Chronicle Wine Competition on this wine.
Nice.
The past few vintages, we've gotten like double gold best in class on our rosé. So I think we've really hit our sweet spot on our rosé.
Nice. Well, before we really go into the show, we have to toast this, because if we don't
Yes.
toast the show, then it gets cursed.
Cheers.
And we all believe in curses.
Cheers.
Cheers. Oh, man.
Good way to start.
Sign me up for a glass of that, please. Well, before we get deep into the show right quick, I just want to tell everybody where you can find us. You can find us on Spotify or Pandora or Apple Podcasting or wherever you get your podcasting shows from. And you can also find us on YouTube at We Know Texas Vino. And, of course, you can find us on social media on Facebook at We Know Texas Vino. And then also May 31st, I am giving away 4 sets of tickets for the Drink North Texas wine event that's going to be at the Love Field Florida Museum. That is going to be a great little event. Your ticket that you get for this event will also allow you to go through the museum. So that's something you want to be looking out for. I will be announcing this giveaway very, very soon. And then also, I will be broadcasting live from the Texas Wine and Grape Growers Association on March 3rd and 4th, which by the time this airs, it would already be done. But you can catch it live on Facebook or record it on Facebook. Or YouTube. Sorry, I'll get it right one of these days. Mm-hmm. So now that I've done my housekeeping stuff, let's talk about y'all. So Gary, ladies first.
Works for me.
Thanks, Gary.
Actually, Gary, since you're the owner, you actually
Yeah,
go
he
first.
should go first. We got to get the backstory.
So Gary, what did you do before you decided you was going to do wine?
We're going to be here all day.
Yeah.
Okay, can we get the abridged version?
Well, I've done a lot of things. I've been a ski instructor for 60 years.
Wow.
I started in 1964.
Not here in Texas, though, right?
So, but that's only a winter job.
Okay.
So I had to have summer work, and I spent about 15 years doing summer work as a tour manager for an international travel corporation.
Okay.
That's how I met my wife. I ran into her halfway around the world in China and Tibet, actually.
Okay.
And then after we got married, I had to find something else to do. So I got into aviation, and I was a commercial pilot operating a business with half a dozen different aircraft.
Okay.
And I did that for about 8 years. And then we moved this was out in California, and we moved here to Texas, which is my wife's family ranch.
Mm-hmm.
And just as we were moving here, I interviewed with Continental Airlines, and they hired me to fly for them. But they were going to base me out of Newark, New Jersey. And my wife wasn't real happy about that. So at that point, I was only about 8 years from mandatory retirement, which was 60 of those back then. Yeah.
Mandatory.
Yeah. So I thought, well, I'll just retire early and from flying. And so I wasn't flying anymore, and I had to think of something to do. And first thing I did was become a cowboy, and I had cattle and horses here on the ranch.
Okay.
And I did that. I was a cattle breeder, a red Brangus breeder, and did that for a couple of years. Then I got tired of having to deal with a bunch of nasty cows that didn't want to cooperate, and horses that didn't want to do anything for you either. So I got rid of all of the cattle business and planted a vineyard, mainly because my family's in the business out in California.
Oh, okay.
In Paso Robles.
Okay.
So put the vineyard in. The vineyard was very successful. Sold grapes to a number of different wineries, and then everybody said, "Well, your grapes are so successful, you need to have your own winery." So I, of course, started a winery, and that was in 2002.
Okay.
And was very successful with the wines. And in fact, the saddle sitting back there behind us was the top Texas wine down in Houston, and that was my 2012 vintage.
Okay.
And it was the Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Syrah blend. And the reason I did this Cabernet Syrah was because the Australians, it's a big blend down there for them.
Right.
They call it Cab Shiraz. And so I thought I'd kind of copy the Australians and came out with a Cab Syrah blend that we call Longhorn Red.
Oh, okay. That's, I mean,
And that's this one.
oh, look at there.
Yeah.
You got me excited when you said Syrah. Sorry. I didn't hear anything else you said when you said Syrah.
Syrah, yeah.
I've been finding these different ones that I've drank before, and at first I didn't really like, and then I turned back and revisited them, and then I'm like, oh, okay, I like this one now, you know?
Yeah.
So that's awesome that you won your first award with that. That's actually the SAT award.
Actually, that wasn't the first award. The first award was my first vintage, 2002.
Oh.
Actually won some awards with that. In fact, the Viognier that I made in 2002 was written up in the Wine Spectator magazine, which at that time they didn't even recognize the fact that Texas made wines.
Right.
And I sent a bottle of it in, and they liked it, and they wrote it up, and it came out in the magazine.
You know, it's always fun looking at stuff like that, and people are like, Texas makes wine? We're like, well, yeah, why not? We have like 100,000 acres around here. You know, there's places that, you know, nothing's being done with. Why not grow grapes with it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, the first vineyard in the country is supposedly in Texas, the El Paso area, and that was missionaries.
Yep.
And then we have one of the oldest, maybe the oldest winery,
Del Rio.
Del Rio. They operated through Prohibition by making wine for the church. And
medicinal use.
Yeah, and you know, and if a doctor wanted to prescribe it as medication, they could do that too.
You know, that's what I would have done if I was in that time frame and it was, you know, medicinal use only. I like, you know, I got a tickle in my throat that only wine can cure.
Yeah, and of course, interesting thing is that the reason Texas kind of fell behind the rest of the country is because when they repealed Prohibition, our governor was Ma. Oh God, what was her name? I can't even think of it now. Ma Ferguson, I think, or something.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, and she was a teetotaler. So when the rest of the country went wet, she kept Texas dry. And in fact, even today, there are areas all over Texas that are still dry, technically dry, but they're not really dry because they can get the restaurants can get club permits and things like that.
Yeah.
So it's
yeah. There's a couple of counties over in East Texas where my folks live that were dry all up to like 2 years ago. And the minute it became wet, there was a liquor store that opened up downtown.
Yeah, when I was at Tech, it was still dry county in Lubbock.
Wow.
When I was in college.
They have a highway that circles around Lubbock, and all the liquor stores were out on that highway, and so you had to drive out to one of the liquor stores to get your liquor and then take it back into town. And interesting, when they voted to go wet, the liquor stores that owned Pinky's was one of them.
Yeah, it's called the Strip.
Yeah, it's called the Strip.
I remember.
and they filed a lawsuit. It was just before Christmas holidays and all that. So they filed a lawsuit to try to stop the vote from being legal.
Right.
And, of course, they lost the lawsuit, but it wasn't until after the big holiday sales period that it was decided. And so Pinky and the other guys out there, they still got all that last minute business before, and then they ended up moving into town anyway.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, it's kind of like over in Stephenville and Dublin.
Yeah.
So Stephenville and Dublin and Comanche. So Stephenville and Dublin are dry, If you want alcohol, you have to go to Comanche, and there's like 3 liquor stores right on the county line. But you have to be careful because there's always a police officer sitting right there waiting for you to walk out of that liquor store so he can get you. So you go into town a little bit further, hit the liquor store that's deeper in town, and then come back out.
Actually, I heard about a place somewhere just north of Austin. It might be in Round Rock or somewhere up there. It's a building, and half the building is wet and the other half is dry.
That would be cool to go into.
The wet-dry line goes right through the center of this building.
That would be cool to go into.
Yeah.
That is awesome. So, Jackie, how's it
Hello.
going?
Good.
So, how did you get into wine? I mean, you just didn't wake up one day and want to make wine, did you?
No, I had no clue. No, I was in college. Like I said, I was at Texas Tech. I'm born and raised in Houston area. I have an amazing aunt. Hi, Aunt Robin, if you see this. She owned a wine bar in Katy, Texas.
Okay.
And when they're in the process of opening up the wine bar, she had wine reps coming to her house while they were doing the build out. And I'd be home for like Christmas break or spring break, and I'd taste these amazing like European imports and California wines. And it was definitely a big step up from the strip in Lubbock, from getting boxed white Zinfandel or Carl Rossi. So whenever I would go back to Tech, I would actually go inside and not go through the drive-through and like look for nice bottles of like Spanish wine and other wines that I, had been tasting with my aunt. And she said that she's like, I knew right away that you had a really great palate. I could just really tell. And so after college, I ended up graduating in August, and the California wine harvest season starts in August. She had ended up getting me an internship at a winery in Sonoma County. And so she's like, just go try it out. I knew nothing about winemaking. Like literally the winery called me for my interview and was like, ask me what my boot size was. And that's all. I was like, okay, like what are we going to be doing? So I really didn't know. And so 3 days after I graduated from Tech, I moved out to Sonoma County and moved in with a winemaker and his wife. And I found out really quick that I was really good at manual labor and dragging hoses and cleaning tanks. And, it just really clicked really early on for me. I knew like the first week and it was 2007 harvest too, which was such an incredible harvest season in Sonoma County. But it just clicked, and they let me do a lot of the lab work and other things that they don't really let green interns do. And they ended up hiring me full time after my internship. And so I made that big leap from Texas. And, I thought I'd only be there for a couple years, and a couple years turned into 15 years because I met my husband out there, and we had our 2 kiddos, and, worked at 3 awesome wineries while I was there, and did all my schooling while I was out there too. Wow. UC Davis Extension, Sonoma State, and other viticulture and enology courses. But yeah, it just kind of happened like thanks to my aunt, but I really had no clue until it just kind of fell into my lap, and I love it. It really is a passion.
Nice. And that's I think all of us have found some way or another. We just fell in love with that passion. That's what happened to me. Found somebody that made fun of me drinking Moscatos and drinking wine, and next thing you know, I'm doing a podcast, and now I'm making a wine. So we just fall into that. So it's pretty interesting how everybody's origin story is. It's amazing. I like hearing it. Excuse me. So coming from California, then. So you've been here now what?
Since 2021, we moved back, and that was my first Texas vintage.
Okay. So, and I'm just going to ask, since you did both California and Texas, so which one do you like the best?
I mean, that's a very hard question. I don't know. There's no right or wrong. It's just different. I mean, it's very different. I mean, vineyards here are very spread out. You're getting, you can be getting fruit all over in California too, but it's just more saturated. There's vineyards everywhere. They have the infrastructure that we don't have yet. We're up and coming on a lot of that stuff. It's just different. Right. It's very consistent. Obviously there's fires and other things, but here we're still growing. And I've really learned over the last couple years to be really prepared because, you never know what things are going to turn out. You're getting fruit from the high plains. It might not show up on the time that you want, but it's really helped me be able to make really great wine out of any situation. Right. And I worked in custom crush my whole career. So my first winery, we had 30 clients, custom crush clients. And then my next 2 wineries, we had a lot of clients, and it really teaches you every situation you're going to deal with, what to do, what not to do. And I think that really helped me prepare for making wine in Texas.
Nice.
Yeah.
So when you was in California, what was your favorite varietal to make there? And then when you came here, did that change?
I think, the varietals are going to be different from the different states.
Right.
It's very different climate, very different terroir. But I mean, I think one of my favorites in California was Pinot Noir. And obviously we don't have a lot of Pinot Noir here, but something similar is Mourvedre. They're both a little difficult to work with, but I kind of like a challenge. But I think one of my favorites in Texas has been Syrah.
Nice.
It's just been so fun, and just really to get that, beautiful inky color from these Texas grapes has been just a fun challenge, and I just love it. And we have some really awesome Syrahs and, all of the wines, but I'm really excited about them, especially coming out in the next few vintages.
Nice. I love me a good Syrah.
Yeah.
So, Gary, what is your favorite? So, like, you have to, every year you have to have this one varietal. What is that one varietal that you have to have every year?
VOJ.
Yeah, he loves Viognier. Yes.
Well, the reason I planted, actually, it's funny, Jackie spoke about Pinot Noir. I actually had an acre of Pinot Noir when I originally planted the vineyard.
Oh, let's do it again, Gary.
And no, actually, it grew very well, and it produced a nice crop. And the only problem with it was because of the warm temperature, it wasn't varietally correct.
Right.
But you could make it. I sold the grapes to a winery that made a sweet wine with it, I believe, something like that.
Ugh.
Yeah. Well,
I mean,
I know, but
Pinot Noir sweet. I mean,
but then after I pulled it out, then somebody mentioned to me, "Why didn't you make a Chardonnay? Make a sparkling wine with it, a champagne wine."
Yeah.
And I thought, well, I never gave it a try. That might have been the ticket that would have worked. But anyway, it went. But most of the grapes that I planted are warm weather climate varietals. The Syrah and the Viognier from the Rhone Valley, the Sangiovese from Italy. They're grapes that grow well in their home hot climates.
Right.
And that's why. And I had Muscat for a while, Muscat Canelli. So anyway, you don't want to. You try to grow what fits into your particular climate. If you want to get really good quality wine.
So I know you've been doing this for 25 years now, and you have 18 acres right now. So how many acres did you start out with?
Oh, let's see, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 8, maybe about a third of that.
Okay.
And then I added then a little while. Then I added the Sangiovese.
Okay.
And then after that, I added Syrah. And then the last addition was 3 acres of Cabernet at the very bottom of the vineyard.
Okay.
So it all went in pretty much. I mean, it's all been in for quite a while, except for the last 3 acres at the bottom. The rest of the vineyard's pretty much old.
Okay. So do you still have some of your original vines that you planted?
Oh yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice. So it's 25-year-old vines. Huh?
And the trunks are huge, like a tree trunk. But most of them have been replanted because we had trunk diseases. And I mean,
the freeze in 21.
Freezes and Pierce's disease. And there's a million things here in Texas trying to kill your vines.
Right.
And so you just try to prevent it, try to protect them. And if you can't protect them, you replace them.
Right.
So it's a constant job replacing vines pretty much all the time.
Yeah.
If you don't, and for a number of years I didn't replace them as needed, and then I got to the point where there were a lot of missing vines. And of course, if you've got missing vines, you're not making any money.
Right.
Because you're spending money to spray and treat and water and do everything to an empty hole that's not going to have any grapes on it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So now I'm spending a lot more time replacing plants immediately.
Okay.
In other words, every little spot that doesn't have a vine, we plug it in with a vine.
Okay.
And,
nice. Looked like you had something you wanted to say because you kept leaning over.
No. Just listening. No, I mean, we've been through quite a big replant since 2021. I mean, we had that big freeze and lost a lot of our early ripeners. So it's been also great to see kind of the regrowth of everything coming back online.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Yeah, the big thing that happened then was a warm winter. So the vines came out of dormancy way too early, about a month before normal. And then, of course, we had the big freeze, got down to 0 degrees. We had a foot of snow on the ground. And when the vines are that far along and you get that kind of weather, it doesn't just kill the crop, it kills the vine right to the ground.
Yep.
Other years that I've had crop losses have been when the vines start to grow and you get a small freeze or a light freeze, and it kills the buds that are trying to grow, and then you get a secondary push with the secondary buds, and you can even get a third if everything goes bad after again, but as the later buds come out, they don't produce as big a crop, and so in fact one year the freeze came in and it killed everything except the very top edge of the vineyard, which sits up by Ranch Road 12, and all the grapes I could pick that year amounted to 60 gallons of Cabernet Sauvignon.
Wow.
Yeah,
60
and
gallons.
one barrel of Cab, and I had a fellow working to helping me out in the vineyard, and when I took it out of I had put it in a really nice brand new French oak barrel, and when I took it out of the barrel and put it in a small tank to get it ready to bottle, he forgot to seal the lid up one night.
Oh no!
And it got air in there and oxidized it.
Oh.
But the story gets better though. I didn't know what to do with it, and we were bottling some other wines, so I just threw it into the bottling line and I bottled it up and sat it aside in the vineyard, in the winery, and then a number of years later, I opened one up just to see for the heck of it what's going on, and it had changed quite a bit. It still had some oxidation, but it was more of a controlled oxidation, which immediately made me think port.
Okay.
So I got some grape brandy and fortified it and did a bunch of work on it, and it turned out to be an outstanding port wine.
Nice.
Yeah.
You know, those are called happy accidents.
I was just going to say that, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
There have been a lot of those.
Oh, yeah.
There was a classic one. I believe it was Kendall Jack. It was one of the big wineries in California. Accidentally, they had a wine. It was a white wine that they were trying to make a dry wine out of it, but it had a little. It stuck fermentation. Didn't quite get dry enough, so they said, "Well, let's just get rid of it. We'll sell it and get rid of it." And it turned out to be a cash cow, huge.
Wow.
And so they started making it, and that's your. It was the. Which one? You know the one I'm talking about.
I don't know. You said Kendall Jackson?
Yeah, it's there. Oh, it was a. Good grief.
That's okay, Gary.
Yeah, I have trouble remembering.
You'll think
things.
of it. You'll think of
Yeah,
it.
it became one of their big main wines.
Nice.
But it was, it wasn't what they had originally thought about, or intended. About halfway through this podcast, I'll remember it. And I'll
blurt it out.
I'll just blurt it out. Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of the wineries, and as a winemaker, you get something come up and you're like, I can't do anything with this, and then you try to figure out what to do with it, and then you kind of forget about it, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, let's do something with it, and the next thing you know, it's something amazing that you wasn't expecting.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, let's case in point here.
Yeah.
So Lost Oak 9 years ago lost a barrel of Viognier. Lost a barrel of Viognier. First off, how do you lose a barrel?
It can happen.
But
yeah, it can happen. But yeah.
But so they found it 9 years later.
Oh my gosh.
And they opened that barrel. Well, first off, they found it by cleaning a certain area up, and they found this barrel, and they were going to move it and realized it was too heavy to move, and they pulled the bung off of it and looked, and there was wine in it. And come to find out, that was that Viognier that they lost. And let me tell you something. It was a very caramel color. Mm-hmm. Didn't have no characteristics of a Viognier whatsoever, but it was so smooth and easy to drink that, I try not to spend a lot of money on wine because I have too many bottles. But, for $90, I bought the bottle.
Wow.
And it's sitting at the house, and I'm like, okay, now I got to figure out when I'm going to drink this.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's on the top shelf in my wine refrigerator in the back, so that way it's out of sight, out of mind, So you got that kind of happy accident.
Yeah, but there's a lot of situations like that where, for us especially, like I was saying, the consistency, but it can happen like California versus Texas. But here, like I was saying too, like waiting on wine to come, from High Plains or other places. Like our vineyards aren't just, our estate vineyards here, but other vineyards, are a distance and more than just a couple hour drive, like a 7-hour plus drive. And things can happen. Like, for example, this rosé that you're drinking, we won double gold and we've been doing really well in our rosé, but we had to deal with a happy accident, like with a Cabernet that came in with a foot of rain in it. And we had to make game time decision of what are we going to do to save this wine? And game time decision, we're going to Saunier And we pressed some of that off and a portion of that went into this rosé, and we, got a double gold. But
Nice.
I mean, at that time, it's like, okay, like, what are we going to do with this? We have to make the best possible outcome for this situation.
Also that reminds me of another winery that did a happy accident as well. As they were racking over their Viognier, had them in barrels, and they didn't mark their Tempranillo barrel, and they thought it was Viognier also, and they racked over their the Tempranillo into their Viognier, and actually made a really nice little rosé out of it, and that was one of their biggest sellers. I mean, again, it's another happy accident that you can never recreate again.
Totally, that would give me a heart attack in the moment, though. Oh my gosh, that sounds terrible.
I mean, it did, because
that stuff, it can. We're human.
Yeah,
mistakes
they were
can happen.
Small winery, so little small mistakes like that is a big deal.
Oh yeah,
but it actually turned out great for them.
Nice.
So I had to say it was actually a really good rosé. So,
yeah, cool.
Yeah. So
and then of course, if nothing else works, and you've got a wine that is just hopelessly lost, you can make jelly out of it.
Oh.
And I had some wine that was not that good. I mean, it had just same idea. It had gotten oxidized or something happened to it. And so I took it over and had wine jelly made out of it. And of course, they cook it and sugar it and all that. So you come up with a really nice jelly. And I did the math, and I found out that I was making more money out of the jelly than the wine.
So we're going to change our business model.
Yeah, because it only takes a few bottles of wine to make a big batch of jelly.
I was about to say, well, you're going to start making jelly now.
Okay. It's going to get interesting over here.
Yeah, those 200-liter tanks, became jelly. Just go ahead and pour the
Add
gelatin in.
that to the resume.
Oh my goodness, that's funny. So, actually, hang on, I went blank because I have all my questions over
You're
here.
good.
So, Driftwood, you actually gave me a hard time about this a while ago, but you came up with the name Driftwood because the town where you're at, okay? But, I mean, that wasn't your first choice of name, was it?
Yeah, I think it was.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we're in Driftwood. We live in Driftwood, and of course, I like it's kind of a real catchy name, and of course, as a logo, we could have a big piece of Driftwood, something like that. But no, it's kind of a Western sounding name. It sounds like some old maybe some old town you'd see in a cowboy or a Western movie, and the whole theme that I use is this Western theme, and that's why the labels have a lot of the label is supposed to represent maybe a little wanted poster or reward poster type thing.
Okay.
And then of course the animals, some of the animals like the longhorn and all that. And it's funny, I was at a Twiga meeting many years ago, and I'm standing in the back of this big room, and the speaker was talking to everybody, and he said, well, he was talking about labels, what you should or should not do with a label. And he says, the last thing in the world you want to do is put some big old picture of a cow on your label. And the whole room turned around and looked at me because, and I'm just sitting back there going, well, what can I say? And it's kind of interesting because when I first started coming out with these labels with kind of Texas icons on them, everybody thought, oh, that's terrible, that's never going to work. Now you look around and they're everywhere.
Yeah.
There's a Longhorn Cellars, and everybody is kind of trying to tune into the Texas look or the Texas Western look.
Yeah.
And I guess I was the first one to dare go to it.
Well, I didn't really get a look at your labels, but just now until you made that comment about it look like a wanted poster, it does look like a wanted poster. Now the question is, when y'all have them printed, is it printed like that, or y'all actually have to cut them a little bit to make them work that way?
Well, what I wanted originally was kind of a wavy line around the edges and maybe like a little burnt type appearance. But I could never quite get that.
I've got lighters.
Printers couldn't quite work on that.
I got lighters. We can light
yeah.
label.
Might work, but the whole idea was I wanted it to look like an old wanted poster that you'd see in an old Western movie, something like that.
Yeah.
And but we're gonna clean it up and straighten the edges a little bit, get away from that idea.
Okay.
But we're still gonna keep the look of. I mean, when you look at my label, there's no doubt it's from Texas.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just want that to jump out right away. Wow, it's Texas.
Yeah. And get to look at all different labels and stuff. And, you know, you always find that one label and always remember what that label is. And I will always remember your label now. So every time I pull a bottle out, I'm going to look at your labels and I'm going to look, yeah, this is not Driftwood label. Put it back.
Yeah, and some of the, like the large lettering, the Driftwood, it's kind of like a stagecoach font.
Yep.
And then, and you've got the little outline of the state of Texas. But then the estate winery is to give it a little more of a classy look, so it's the kind of scripty looking cursive.
You know, they do have in Photoshop, you can give it like the state of Texas, you can give it that burnt look now on it. So if you just load it up in Photoshop, there are all kinds of little plugins where you can say, oh, I want this look like it's been on fire, and and you can do all that stuff.
Well, that does have a little shadowy outline on it. It's supposed to look like a brand, like it was branded with a branding iron. And my daughter does all the graphic artwork for the labels.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. You know, it's always fun to have someone who's an artist in the family, you know, because I'm not, by all means.
Yeah, and then we kind of put a different icon, a different picture on each one. And the reason for that is because when they're grabbing bottles, if we just had a name, if it was just written what it was, you know, you're grabbing bottles and putting them in a box or a bag or something like that, you could grab the wrong one, and we've had that happen once in a while, but not very often.
Same here.
Because what you're not looking for the name of the wine as much as you're looking for the picture on it.
Right.
And you know the Longhorn, that's the Longhorn Red, and the Alamo, it's got the picture of the Alamo on it. So that makes it real quick and easy to recognize that particular wine and distinguish it from the others.
Nice. I like that. You know, because you know one of the things that we all associate sometimes is we don't read. So we associate with pictures, and I like that idea. That's a great concept. Never thought about that before. So
and we've got a Pinot Grigio that has a picture of a ringtail cat on it, and the ringtail cat was climbing in this tree right out here behind us.
Okay.
And my daughter took a picture of it, so that's where that came from. But almost all of the pictures or the on the labels are something that's here on the ranch, and that's why we got a picture of it.
Nice.
The only different one was the Syrah. It's a picture of what looks like a windmill. It is a windmill, and we were driving down Interstate 10, just this side of Fort Stockton, and I saw this off to the side of the road and pulled over immediately. Because it's most of these things are all made out of steel.
Right.
This was timber. It was an old antique timber framework that held it up, and then there was a rock, looked like a handmade rock little thing down below it that would hold water. It was bringing up water.
Nice.
And
that's awesome.
And my daughter took pictures of it, and that's where that picture came from. And of course, it's since then been torn down, so it doesn't exist anymore.
Huh.
But it was really interesting to see. It doesn't show up quite as well in the picture because it's small, but when you stand there and look at it, and all of the struts and all of the cross pieces are all pieces of rough timber.
Nice. You know where you should go get a picture of? You know, out there on Willow Loop, you know, the Willow Loop, you know, they got that fence that's got all those boots on it. You should get a picture of that and put it on a label.
Yeah.
That to me is iconic. I mean, because anytime somebody associates Texas, they always say, "Oh, you mean the boot fence?"
Oh, I haven't seen it.
You've never seen that before?
I don't think so.
Oh man! So
I guess I need to take a road trip.
Springtime, blue bonnets.
Well, that's with the blue bonnets,
Yeah.
Go to Willow Loop, and
Okay.
you know, and go early before everybody else gets out there, and the bikers like me, you know,
Nice.
and you'll see that fence that's got all those boots turned upside down on the fence poles right there, and that's a very iconic.
You know what? Maybe I have seen that.
Yeah, it's a very
Okay.
iconic picture of Texas.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, it's-
And of course, we have the blue bonnets on our Viognier.
Man, I mean, it goes well. I mean, it's a floral grape, you know.
Yes.
So, Jackie, so what is your favorite to work with? Like, I didn't already ask you this, didn't I?
I guess you said I think
I think I
Syrah, and then I really love like whites, and I mean California I really loved like Burgundies. Here I'm loving Rhone varietals. I love to work with everything. I know that sounds really maybe I love to work with all of it, but yeah, Syrah's been my favorite so far.
You know, I think from what I have been reading, there's a lot of in Texas. We do a lot of Bardo and Rhone varietals here, and we do a lot of Bardo blends around here because I mean that's that warm grape. They love it here, you know. And so it's and actually my education topic today is talking about pairing Bardo wines with food.
Cool. Cool.
So that's the education. That's a little bit later on. So, but I mean, it's fun sitting and getting to talk with people like y'all who are pioneers, because you definitely are a pioneer in the Texas wine. Because I mean, you started in '97, so you're definitely a pioneer. And then you're a pioneer coming in.
This will be my 18th vintage this year. I can't believe it's been that long,
I
but
know.
it's pretty cool.
Yeah, when you sit down and think about stuff, you only been making wine for 18 years, but you only got one time to do it a year.
Yep.
So someone actually made that comment to me. They're like, when you make wine, you get one time a year to make wine. Don't mess it up.
Right.
It's already bad enough you're already stressed out that you got all this. You got several thousand liters of wine in here, and you just one time and you're done.
Yeah.
So
it's fun though. It's the best time of year.
Oh yeah, it's always fun. In fact, I've partaked in a couple of harvests before and done some crushing and destemming. It's definitely painstaking. Yeah. I've found out really quick that I'm not built for the vineyard.
Oh man.
Well, I mean, I've had 2 heat exhaustions, so getting out in that heat, too long, I'm kind of
Yeah.
done,
The Texas heat is brutal.
It definitely is. It definitely is. So y'all's harvest here, do y'all do like a big harvest party like all the other vineyards around here, or do y'all have machine harvest or
A machine.
machine harvest?
Yeah.
Okay.
I bought a machine many years ago when we were trying to hand picking, and we'd get a crew come in, and the coyote that would bring in the crew would bargain for how much you were going to have to pay him. And then the day they showed up early in the morning, he'd always want more. So, and then they wanted a hot breakfast and a hot lunch. And I mean, it was kind of like extortion, you
Right.
know. Oh yeah, okay. And then I noticed that they'd go along and they'd pull all the basal leaves off ahead of the pickers so that they could see the grape clusters easier. And I stopped them. I said, "You can't do that. We need those leaves to produce for the storage of everything in the vine over the dormant period."
Right.
But they don't, they didn't understand anything about that. They were just trying to make the picking easier.
Right.
So I was selling grapes at that time to Dr. Becker, and so I called up and I told him, I said, if you got a harvester we can borrow, and they sent over a harvester, and the next morning when the crew showed up, we had a harvester out there picking. And the look on this guy's face was great. And that was when I decided I had to have one of those too. So I went ahead and bought one.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of wineries out there that prefer a hand harvest over the harvester, which I get it, because you get more mog in the manual or the automatic picker, I get it.
Gary and I have different opinions on hand harvest versus machine harvest.
It's a very good friend of mine he used to work for UC. Well, he was a professor at UC Davis, and then one day I noticed that he had a job working as vice president of viticulture for Gallo. So I called him up, and I said, I was joking with him and said, I see you finally got a real job. And but he's written he's done a lot of research, and he did a research project with the help of Gallo, because he had unlimited funding and he could do a lot of things that he couldn't do when he was with UC Davis. And he had 2 different plots. It was Cabernet Sauvignon, and one of them they did everything mechanically. Leaf pulling, thinning, all, no human hands touched anything. And then the harvest was done by machines. Then the other plot was done all by hand, everything, all handwork. And the handwork plot had a very light crop, only a couple of tons an acre, and they had a pretty good sized crop on the mechanical side. So everybody, you talk to people about this, obviously the small crop, all done by hand, is going to be better. Turned out it wasn't. The pyrazines were much higher. In other words, the quality of the fruit that was all done mechanically with a larger crop had much better quality fruit and wine.
Interesting.
Because you can balance a crop either way. You can have too much fruit, not enough canopy, and you're not going to get ripening.
Right.
Because you're overcropped.
Right.
You can be undercropped. You can have a big canopy and a very light fruit load, and you're going to have problems there. So the idea is you got to balance it out.
Right.
And a lot of people think that all you got to do is just drop half your fruit and it'll get better. But no, that doesn't work like that.
Right.
Unless you've got a very tiny little canopy and you have to drop the fruit because you're overcropped. So what you're trying to do is balance it yourself.
Right.
But what I've found is that the grapevines usually tend to balance themselves.
Nice.
And if
okay.
you try to manipulate them too much, it can take several seasons or several years before they actually get back to a natural balance that they like.
Okay, so you have a machine that literally goes out there and does all the pruning and everything for you, or you just actually still do it manually?
No, we hand prune, but
Okay.
but we machine harvest.
Okay,
Yeah.
I didn't know there was a machine out there that would do pruning and stuff.
Oh yeah, and they can leaf thinning and shoot thinning, all of that kind of stuff.
Did not know that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But,
we have a good crew, 2 guys that live on property. They're amazing. They do all of our pruning and vineyard work. They're great.
You know, if I worked in a vineyard, I would have to get up like at 11 o'clock at night. I need a lot of, big halogen lights, lots of field.
Yeah, we start harvesting before the sun comes
Yeah.
up.
I mean, that's the best time
We
to do
usually
it.
get
dark,
here
yeah.
at like 4 in the morning.
Yeah, that's the best time to do it.
When it's still 80 degrees
Yeah.
in the summer.
Well,
It doesn't cool down.
This friend of mine was a winemaker at Llano Estacado, and then he went out to St. Genevieve at Fort Stockton, and he ended up in Paso Robles, California.
Uh-huh.
And somebody asked him, well, what's the difference between the weather in California and the weather in Texas? And he says, well, here in California, it gets really hot during the day, and it gets really cool at night.
Mhm.
And he says, back in Texas, it gets really hot during the day, and it gets really dark at night.
Very true.
I like to tell people, they ask me the same thing, and I say, well, it's extreme death during the daytime, and it's death at night. So either way, it's still too hot.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh man. Well, is there anything that we haven't touched yet that y'all want to talk about? I mean, this is all about y'all. I mean, this is y'all's show. This is information that goes out to our listeners and people. We're in 45 different countries, so we have people all over the world listening and talking about Texas wines. So is there anything that I didn't touch on that y'all want to chat about?
I just think for me, one thing is that, we are making, some of the top scored wines in Texas right now. And, the last few vintages and the upcoming vintages are amazing. And, we're not really in the Fredericksburg hub. And I know a lot of people that travel to Texas to wine country are mainly visiting the Fredericksburg hub. So we just want to get more visibility and awareness about Driftwood. So we just want to tell people to come see us, come try our awesome wines. We have an amazing staff, and the Elliott family, just, coming to an awesome, winery that's been here, one of the first established vineyards in Hays County. I mean, it's a really cool place, and we're making some really good wines. So we just love people to come see us.
So what AVA are we in right now? Are we all in an
Hill
AVA?
country.
Texas
You're
Hill
just in the Hill
Country.
country?
Hill country.
Yeah.
Okay, every time I look at Hill Country, there's a new AVA popping up. Now we got Hickory Sands that just popped up, and then there's another one also inside of Hickory Sands that just popped up. So
Yeah, you'll find AVAs within AVA.
yeah,
And one of the first ones in the Hill Country was Bell Mountain.
yeah, Bell Mountain, yeah,
And that was Oberhelman.
yeah.
Bob and Evelyn Oberhelman.
Okay,
And they're no longer with us. In fact, when I started out, there were about 40 wineries in the whole state of Texas.
Mhm.
And now there's probably 500 or 600, many of them from California. That's where a lot of our growth is coming from. They're all migrating here
right,
from California.
yeah.
That,
But you know what? I know some of them. I'm not going to say all of them, but I know some of them have migrated from Paso to here
oh yeah.
and decided to give up all their Texas wines, all the California wines, and do all Texas.
Mhm.
So that I'm happy about.
I know who you're talking about.
Serrano?
Oh no, Nate Pruitt.
Oh no, I was talking about Serrano. I haven't talked to Nate yet.
Yeah, he's from Paso Robles.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Serrano. I'm just drawing a blank on their name. They're from Paso. They came here to Texas. They fell in love with Texas wines and found a place. They started growing grapes, and they were waiting for their Texas grapes to come up so they could start ditching their California stuff. And they're slowly fading out California and bringing it all in Texas.
Well, it's like Halter Ranch. They just put a huge facility in. And I used to go to the Halter Ranch winery there in Paso.
Yeah?
Yeah, it was kind of one of my favorite ones there in Paso, which my sister is running our old family vineyard there in Paso Robles.
So you bring grapes in from there?
I started out
Okay.
in the very beginning using a little of her, I would get a little bit of her Merlot
Okay.
and blend it in with some of this, because I didn't have enough in the beginning, and that was before there was a lot of fruit available from the High Plains.
Okay.
It wasn't until years later that the High Plains started to expand and grow.
Right.
So you either had to grow it yourself or get it from out of state. And so I'd get a little bit of her Merlot and blend it in with some of my early wines, but where I needed it. But as soon as I had enough Texas grapes between here and up in the High Plains. That ended, and I became 100% Texas fruit quite a while back.
Okay.
Long time back.
Nice. I really like that. I love hearing y'all's story. That's just, I think when I started taking classes, they said for us that don't get into a winery or a vineyard for the romantic part of it, because it's not going to be romantic.
or to make money.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh my goodness. Well, so we're coming toward the end of our first part of the show here. So, Gary, Jackie, again, is there anything else you want to tell people, or actually, where can they find y'all online? Also, what's your address here? Anything else? I totally forgot about this. You should tell people about your awards that you've won, because you've won quite a bit of awards, including the saddle. We totally missed that. And
yeah, we mentioned that guy, the saddle. Yeah.
But the other thing is, if you walk around the tasting room, you'll see belt buckles hanging all over the place. And I have boxes full of them that we don't even have a place to display them. Well, and of course, those belt buckles are class champion.
Right.
That's a big award. It means, we beat every wine that was entered in that class. And I mean, I've just got, like I say, I've got dozens and dozens of those. And I've been trying to get a lot of them displayed in here. We've got a lot of area around the ceiling where the walls go up, and I'm trying to get Jackie's husband to just go around with shadow boxes or something, and figure out some way to mount them and display them so that we can get them all out where people can see them all.
Well, technically you're supposed to wear the belt buckles, because that's how you show them off. You wear them.
I have it in certain occasions worn one, but anyway, we have a lot of those, so that the saddle, that was one competition. It was the big one. But if you want to look at consistency, all of those just dozens and dozens of belt buckles mean that we consistently win class championships.
Right. That's nice. I really like that. I love hearing that, you're making great wines, you're winning competitions. I mean, that just says a lot, It's just amazing. So, all right, now back to what I originally asked. So where can people find y'all online, and also where's your actual tasting room at?
Well, the tasting room is 4001 Elder Hill Road in Driftwood, and we're real close to Dripping Springs and Wimberley. We're right between the two cities. We're about 6 miles from Dripping Springs and 8 miles from the square in Wimberley. We're online. You can buy our wines online, and the problem is we can't ship to very many states because we don't have the licenses for that. But we can ship to a small number of states. And what I'm trying to do is get to where we can ship more to more different states. The problem there is that to buy a license for every year for a couple $1,000s or $1,000, we'd have to sell enough wine to make it profitable. And so we can't afford to buy a license to a state where we're only going to ship a handful of bottles of wine.
Right, and that's understandable.
Yeah, and that's the biggest problem is the shipping laws, and of course that all came about when they tried to get out of Prohibition.
Right,
they had to let the states all get their own liquor laws, and it should be one liquor law for the whole country. And then we had a thing called the Granholm decision, where Governor Granholm of Michigan was sued, and we thought that that was going to solve the problem. We thought that they would open up the whole country to interstate selling of wine, but instead of using it as a commerce clause lawsuit, it turned into a discrimination lawsuit, where they said that one state can't discriminate against another state. So it didn't do any good to open up.
Right.
Actually, it ruined. There were some reciprocal states, about a dozen, that all got together and said, well, we'll just ship back and forth between each other. And they got rid of that. They literally eliminated that because that was discrimination against anybody who wasn't in that group.
It's funny.
So it's always been a battle, a legal battle for shipping.
If you need a bootlegger, I know a guy.
Oh, man.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, for the most part, people come in and come directly to the winery, and we are in some other local restaurants in the area. but mostly selling through our wine club and through the tasting room itself.
Nice.
So yeah, and we have really great wine club pickup parties that are so fun, and we're gonna do, we do a bunch of events throughout the year. So, but you can find everything out by joining our mailing list on the website.
Okay.
So driftwoodestatewinery.com, and on our social media. Gary mentioned his daughter Laura, who does a lot of the artwork. She runs our social media and she posts all of our events. So you can always check out Instagram and Facebook and all those other places. Yeah,
Nice.
come see us.
Yeah. And I will have to definitely say, I want to come back out here in the springtime when everything's in bloom.
Yes.
And you get to see everything that's alive. I'm a big motorcycle rider.
Oh, nice.
Only problem is I'm scared to go up that hill on the motorcycle.
Oh, yeah. I know.
We get them.
Yeah, we do. They just actually filmed a Harley Davidson commercial right out front
Are you
the
serious?
last 2 days. Yeah.
Really?
You missed it.
Oh, man.
We've had sports car clubs come up here, and a Morgan club and a MG, and they, these little sports cars that are close to the ground, and we've had a lot of them come up here and have little rallies and things. In fact,
Wow.
somebody told me one day, well, you've got to pave that road because you're
I
never
hear
going to
that all the
get
time.
you're never going to get any of these expensive cars because they'll be afraid to bring them up here. We've had Ferraris come up here. We've had Lamborghinis. I mean, you name it. It's very expensive cars that are very close to the ground. They just drive carefully when they come over the hill. Yeah.
I love riding motorcycles, but dirt roads I'm okay with, but dirt roads uphill.
With some bumps in it.
there's a one little slide that just ends everything for me.
Yeah, for sure.
But I you know what? By the way, I'm not a Harley person. By the way, I'm an Indian person.
Okay.
Indian.
Yeah.
India.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I love my Indians. My grandfather had an Indian. In fact, actually, if my grandfather was still alive and he saw I had an Indian, he would say, "Dutch, I'm proud of you."
When I was growing up, I had a neighbor who lived just down the street from me, and he built and raced micro midget race cars.
Really?
And he only used the Indian motorcycle engine.
Nice. Well, I mean, they're good, solid engines. Sorry. Engines,
Yeah,
motors.
got it.
Let's call it that. Let's not call it engines.
Yeah.
So, well, I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to take a little small break to kind of
Okay.
get up and stretch our legs. Then we'll come back and do a small, 10-minute segment on education. So, as I stated earlier, we're going to talk about pairing Bordeaux wines with food, and it's just 5 little topics to go off of. I condensed it down from 10 to 5. Okay. Because some of them can be a little lengthy. So we're going to just take a quick break. We'll come right back and we'll talk about it.
Okay,
All
great.
Hi, this is Eric Beyer of Old Vine, Texas, a new winery tasting room featuring 100% Texas wines from wineries all over the state. We are located in Mansfield, Texas, inside of Ancora Event Center on Broad Street. We have weekly tastings, charcuterie board to enjoy, live music, and a new wine club. Go visit our website at oldvinetexas.com to sign up for our newsletter and learn more. Or you can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Old Vine Texas. We'll see you soon.
Welcome back, everybody, to We Know Texas Vino.
Hello.
Did you start singing there?
Yeah, I almost did.
What was you singing?
I don't know.
You just started humming a tune? I'm gonna zero that out, and I'm going to
Okay.
find it, and then I'm going to make it my tune.
Name that tune.
Yeah, name that tune. Well, welcome back, everybody, to We Know Texas Vino. I'm here with Gary and Jackie, and this is my favorite part of the podcast, outside of actually the interview, is doing wine education. And it's funny, I just kind of hit it while we were out and talking about it, and then we got into really good topics, and then the next thing you know, we were knee deep in it. I was like, wait a minute, we need to start recording this. And so we're going to talk about Bordeaux wines and food pairings. And so I condensed a list of 10 things you got to understand about pairing with foods to 5.
Gary has to move over a little bit more. We got him out of the camera view again.
Oh, come on, Gary.
Come on, Gary. Get over here.
I'm trying to hide.
Oh, you know what? I know what happened.
What happened?
So this camera, it is actually a smart camera. Hang on one second. I can't even see my desktop. Hang on a second. So the camera is a smart camera. It's actually so smart that it moves on its own.
AI camera.
Yes, it's an AI camera, and it works on senses like this, and it will
Oh.
zoom in. And so I have to go in here and fix it all when that happens.
You don't want cameras to get too smart.
See, now if we do that, and looky there. See? There we go. Is that better?
Got us all.
There we go.
Okay.
Oh, there.
We're just going to back this up here a little bit. Hey, I'm still learning this camera, okay?
That's cool. It's a
literally-
cool camera, though.
It is. I've literally only had it for maybe 2 weeks.
Okay.
And when I think I finally figured it out, it throws me a curveball again. So,
It's all good.
okay, let's try this again. All right. So, Bardo wines with food. All right. So first off, you did pour us a Bardo blend here right now. So what are we drinking first?
So this is our 2019 Alamo blend. So our Alamo is always our Bordeaux varietal blend. Every vintage, it'll usually shift on percentages of varietal. The 2019, we were able to have all 5 Bordeaux varietals.
Okay.
So it's Merlot leading, and then Cabernet, Malbec, Cab Franc, Petit Verdot, and Malbec. Did I already say Malbec?
Yeah.
But all 5,
I think
yes.
so. I think you
Yes.
did. I will have to say, did y'all hear what I just said there?
Delicious.
It's it's interesting. When I tell people the winery that I work at Landon, we have a rot bank, a Bardo there, and people go like, "Oh, there's a left and a right." I was like, "Yeah, well, there's a left and a right when you turn your blinkers on too, right?"
True.
So I tell them, a left bank is Merlot
driven.
and then right bank is what Cab Sauv
Cabernet.
driven. Yeah, so I tell them that, and they're like, "Oh, I did not know that." So that's a good education point.
Yeah,
right
and
there.
it shifts from vintage to vintage. This is 100% from Newsom Vineyard up in the High Plains, so more red fruit driven varietals. Really beautiful. And then I got a double gold best in class on this in the Chronicle tasting competition in 23. Was it 22 or 23? And Gary can tell you, we beat out like some really high end Napa Cabernets with our our awesome Texas Bordeaux blend.
That's always good.
One of them was $135 a bottle. Wine.
They always say price doesn't mean everything.
It doesn't.
But most of them were in the $80, $90, all the Syrah. Not only, all of the Napa and Sonoma wines, but then there were also some wines from all over the country, coast to coast. Not only did we beat out everything against us in California, but we were beating out wines from across the country, from coast to coast.
Nice. It's always a good feeling to get.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, this is one of my favorites.
I definitely can see why. It's really good. I like
It
that.
is good.
It definitely have to go home with me.
For sure.
All right, so let's. I'm gonna run through these rules real quick, okay? And then we'll comment on them as we're going, okay? Ready? So rule number 1: pour wines you like with food you like. It does no good to order a dish you have only moderately interested in and pair it with wines you do not like, simply because someone said it was a perfect wine with the perfect food. Just because somebody says it's great with it doesn't mean it goes with it.
Mandavi.
This was going to come back up again. Okay, Gary, go for it.
Well, hold on. Let me get down to number 3.
Oh, you're going
and
to
then-
tell us all of them.
Yeah,
Okay.
let me get down to the other ones, and then you can say that. So,
Okay.
rule number 2: when in doubt, refer to rule number 1.
Okay.
Okay. Rule number 3: decide which is the most important part of the experience for the night: the wine, the food. Serve complex dishes with simple wines. Order simple wines with complicated foods. Both you and the wine and the dish will be happier.
Well, I have to go back to Robert Mondavi. He's the one that said everybody always used to argue what you pair with this and what you pair with that, and he just said you pair a wine you like with a food you like,
Yeah.
and that was his
Yep.
philosophy. But then, as I was saying earlier when we were talking, you don't pair a wine to the food itself. You pair it to the sauces and the method of making it. Because a lot of you can take the same piece of chicken and make 3 or 4 totally different meals by how you marinate it, how you sauce it, and all those sort of things. Yeah. Like you're gonna put a red sauce on it or a white sauce on it. So the sauces and the method of cooking and producing the food is what you taste. So you pair if somebody says, well, what wine should I pair with the chicken? Well, I can't help you. You got to tell me what kind of chicken it's going to be.
Right. Well, then that goes to rule number 4 now. Serve simple dishes with your best wines. Aged Left Bank Bordeaux and its Cabernet Sauvignon based blend takes a beautiful aromatic with truffles, tobacco, smoke, earth, berries, and spice. Their aromatic display will be lost in an overly complex menu. That's a lot of words just to say.
That is a lot of words. I mean,
do I need to reread it again?
I just feel like don't make it so complicated. I mean, like kind of like Gary said, this is like, who wants to think that much when they're making dinner? I mean, I think just like you're saying, like don't overpower an overpowering wine with an overpowering dish. I think is kind of the sum of what you're saying.
Yeah.
Use the KISS system.
Yeah, keep it simple,
stupid.
I'll let you say that part. Well, you know, and to be honest, I love to cook. And anytime I get ready to cook, I'm always thinking what wine would go well with this, you know. And I go through my wine refrigerator, and then my wine rack, and then my wine boxes, and then my wine storage underneath my kitchen island, and then I go through my wine on my bars, and I'm like, okay, I haven't decided what I want to eat yet.
Yeah. So do you decide from the wine? You let the wine decide what you're going to cook based on what you want to drink, or do you know what you're going to cook?
Well, sometimes I already know what I'm going to cook.
Yeah.
I just try to find the right wine to go with it.
Yeah.
And then if I don't have it, I have to go out and find it.
I'm sure you could find something.
I have 300 bottles at the house.
Yeah, you can find something. Yeah.
Well, one of my favorite cartoon jokes is the gal that says, I always cook with wine. Sometimes I even put some of it in the food.
Yes.
Yep.
It's one of my favorite quotes. All right. And so number 5.
Okay.
If you prefer a Rot Bank Merlot dominant Bordeaux wines, they pair with the same foods as those from the Medoc. Never heard of that before. I just saw that. It all goes back to serving what you like. The subtle differences in the character of each bank adds some nuances. For instance, you will find chocolate and licorice and floral notes, but for all the intents and purposes, they are interchangeable at the dinner table.
Well, the other thing you have to remember is that all of these flavors and aromas that you mention in a wine are not going to be detected by a lot of people.
Right.
Everybody, you can take 3 or 4 people, taste the same wine, and they'll all taste a different thing.
Exactly. It's subjective. And just climate-wise, it's not always, like the characteristics or aromatics that you're describing are not always going to be consistent from different climate to climate or region or appellation. So just drink what you enjoy and eat what you enjoy. But it is fun to pair too. And you know, like if you're having lighter dishes, pair with lighter wines, and heavier dishes, pair with heavier, or, you know, it's fun to try things out. We do a really fun chocolate and wine tasting here at Driftwood with an awesome chocolate company that's in Dripping Springs, Dripping Springs Chocolate.
There you go.
They're amazing. We love you guys. But one of the most fun pairings is you wouldn't really think about it is this awesome, spicy chocolate that has like cayenne pepper in it. Like you really don't want to pair spice with red wine because it just kind of exacerbates the tannin and all the things. But we paired it with our amazing, also won double gold award drop, our semi-sweet orange muscat, and just think like spicy food with like sweeter wines, kind of that cool pairing, like Thai food and sweet wines. So it is like a match made in heaven. So we end the chocolate pairing like all paired with reds. We do have one that's like a strawberry chocolate paired with a rosé. That's really cool. But ending it with this spicy chocolate in a white wine, people are just like, what? This is so weird. This is going to be terrible. And it's like such an amazing, fun pairing. So just try things out too, trial and error, and you'll find what you like. I just think it's fun to put things together, but don't make it too overcomplicated.
Yeah, I think the semi-sweet muscat wine tones down the spiciness of the chocolate.
You know, I one of my favorite vignettes to drink up in the North Texas is from 555, and it's very. I don't ever try to associate fruit forward with whites, but this is very fruit forward because it's a dry vignette. And every time I drink it, I get hankering for a very spicy chicken pad thai. I mean, like I'm talking about level 5 heat, okay? And it's really, and it complements it. I mean, it really just balances all out, and it makes it really tolerable to eat that heat because now it's not as hot. So that is one of the best ways to figure out what goes with what.
Right.
It's just, you know, I like to tell people when they come in, when you drink something, what do you crave immediately? The minute you drink that, what do you crave? And sometimes some people are like, well, I crave strawberries. Well, there you go. I mean, there's your palate. But at that same time, what did you eat 3 or 4 hours before you came and drink that wine? Because your palates remember a lot of stuff.
Yeah, for sure. When I do blending, I can't eat anything before tasting wine, like 0 food until I'm done blending, because it really does affect your palate and your taste memory, all the things. So like I always have to be like no food before.
A lot of people mess up their palate before they start tasting wine. And I mean, of course, everybody, you get this cigars and port, but to me, smoking, it does really affect your tasting.
It does.
Your palate.
It does.
And so that can have a big effect on what people are going to taste.
So I'll tell you what I do.
Coffee. I mean, a lot of things.
Coffee really, man, it jacks up everything.
Oh, yeah.
And cigars too, but we can't diss cigars. I love cigars. Okay.
That's fine.
I would suggest not cigars and some nice delicate wine, cigars and a big powerful port.
Actually, I found out when I was down here at Ciboney with Miguel. He gave me a cigar and gave me a white wine, and I've never thought that in a million years. It was absolutely gorgeous. That's a whole
cool.
different topic right there.
Yeah.
One of the things I do before I go do a tasting, and I literally did this before I got here because I had breakfast and I came out here. And on my way here, I have a clean toothbrush that I carry, a little cheap clean toothbrush, and I scrub my palate. Okay, that may sound crazy, but at least my palate is clean now from all the breakfast that I just had because I had sugar, I had sausage.
Yeah. Everyone has their own system.
Or get you a good tongue scraper.
And,
Yeah.
and food gets trapped in your teeth.
Yes.
And every now and then after eating, I'll kind of start tasting something and I'll have to go in there and pick it out between my teeth because until you get rid of it, you can taste it.
Awesome.
That's funny.
Awesome.
Oh, man. Well, folks, it's been really great being out here having a conversation with y'all, laughing with y'all. Really enjoyed it. But I want to hit my sponsors real quick, and then we do my wine quotes. I do an episode with wine quotes. The last two episodes I did, I had all my notes on my laptop, which I'm used to doing everything on my laptop, and I switched over to a desktop, so I didn't have any of my notes at all. So I had the winemakers and the owners actually come up with wine quotes, and we actually got some really good ones out of there. So, but I actually came prepared this time, unless y'all got quotes. No? Okay. All right. So real quick, I want to hit up on my main sponsor, Texas Wine Lover. So actually, I see you wearing the button on your shirt right here.
Got my Texas Wine Lover button on.
Me and Gary thought you actually stole the jacket at first.
No. Got my Texas Wine Lover button.
I thought she had the price tag.
Representing.
But Texas Wine Lover, people, if you're not using the app, you need to use the app because that is an amazing way to find wineries in Texas, and specifically here in the Hill Country because there's so many down here, and you were looking for a specific thing. There's ability to go on there on the app and actually filter out what you're looking for. So go out there, download the Texas Wine Lover app on any app store, or even go to their website at texaswinelover.com. And then, of course, my other sponsor here is and y'all should actually get hooked up with these guys, is Old Vine Texas down in Mansfield, Texas. He comes down here to the Hill Country, and he brings Hill Country wine back to the North Texas area. There's a lot of people that don't want to make the trip down here because it's 4 hours down here. And so the best way to do that is drive 20 minutes to Mansfield and get Hill Country wines. And he's doing a great job out there. Eric and his wife has done a great job of curating some of the best Hill Country Texas wines. And he only has room for 12 right now. And he's working on already expanding his tasting room because it's already packed now. So he's looking to have a big wall of like 30 or 40. And eventually he wants to have like a region of Texas wines,
Nice.
like High Plains, North Texas, Hill Country, East Texas, stuff like that. So yeah, be pretty cool once he gets all that done.
Yeah,
so,
tell him to come taste at Driftwood.
I will definitely say that. He's been trying to get me to go to West Cave also.
Oh yeah, nice.
West Cave.
We love
Yes.
them too.
Margaret and
Alan.
Oh, you know what? I can go talk to them.
Yeah,
tomorrow.
you should.
Yeah, they used to be right up on Hamilton Pool Road here, and then they moved they went to the dark side, and they moved to
Describe the dark side.
the strip between Johnson City and Fredericksburg.
Oh, okay. Oh man. All right, so it's time for wine quotes.
Okay.
Are y'all ready for this? Okay, so this is actually a winemaker quote that I found online, and I thought it was pretty funny. A winemaker never changes the character of a wine. The character comes from the grapes.
I mean,
are
we supposed to say yes or no?
No, I mean, it's just
Yeah.
a quote. I mean, you could say, no, that's not true, or
Yeah.
you can...
Well, there's an old saying that wines are made in the vineyard.
Yeah.
Starts in the
Because
vineyard.
if you start with a really great grape, you can mess it up.
Yep.
But if you start with a bad grape, you can't really make it good.
Right. Well, they always say you can make good wine from bad grapes, but you can make bad wine from good grapes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then this last one here, a winemaker never changes the character of a wine. Oh, man, I just copy and pasted literally the same thing.
Well, we get to hear it again.
Well, you only get one quote for today,
yes.
folks.
How about it takes a lot of good beer to make good wine?
That's what I get accused of. we since we're a brewery now, I'll be drinking a little Pilsner.
A little.
A little.
And somebody will always come up and say, why, you're a winemaker, why are you drinking beer? And I always tell them it takes a lot of beer to make good wine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, someone along the line said, "Hey, hold my beer. Watch what I want to do."
Oh, it's hold my beer, Bubba, and watch this.
I think a lot of great things came from Texas from that way.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, Gary and Jackie, it has been an honor to sit down and have a chat with y'all, to share wine with y'all, and to have a great conversation with y'all.
Yeah, you too.
So,
Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome. And this is Will with We Know Texas Vino, and cheers.
Thanks, Will. Thanks, Gary. Cheers.